True peace, kins and friends. I am back with a part 2 to Mumia Abu Jamal's the happenings between what happened. But before I get in to the video, I like to bring in some positive forces of Noopoo. Noopoo, Noopoo, Noopoo. Noopoo, Noopoo, Noopoo. Noopoo, Noopoo, Noopoo. Okay, so this video is basically the same video I'm about to show, but we are going to focus on the brother William Cook in this part 2.
Working as a taxi cab driver, and on December 9th, 1981, his life would change forever. Police officer Daniel Faulkner pulled over a vehicle that was being driven by William Cook, Mumia's younger brother. The car is his, it's registered to him. Mumia is driving by and he sees this. He gets out and ends up in a fight with the officer as well. Guns go off and both the officer and Mumia end up shot. Mumia goes to the hospital and Faulkner passes away at the scene. The trial is a mess. Nobody denies Mumia killed Faulkner, but the prosecution presented 4 witnesses with different stories and who didn't see the shooting and made a case that this was a setup, all while Mumia's brother refused to even testify. Robert Sherbert, another cab driver, said he was parked behind Mumia, who was waiting for Faulkner. Cynthia White said he was waiting from a parking lot and then walked up to shoot Faulkner. Michael Scanlon was 2 cars away but says he saw Jamal walking towards the altercation with a gun drawn. Albert Maggleton said he saw Faulkner pull over Cook but didn't see anything else. They brought in nurses who heard Mumia say he shot Faulkner, which he did, but that doesn't mean this was premeditated first-degree murder. Mumia wasn't even allowed to testify at his own trial. His brother kept telling people, I ain't got nothing to do with it. Mumia would go on to state, like many other Panthers such as Eddie Conway, that he was not allowed a lawyer, even when many offered their services for free. Notably, one stood out in this case. Prominent lawyer and Move founder John Africa had offered to defend him, but the judge would not allow it. Amnesty International became involved as the prosecution presented a case in which Faulkner was ambushed. Not a case where Faulkner was in an altercation with William Cook. This ignored the storied history of Philadelphia police with both race-based brutality, corruption, and even fabricated evidence. They also used quotes from a teenage Mumia to paint him as a radical anarchist of sorts, not the adult who had been a journalist for the better part of his life, having worked for several NPR affiliates. They gave him the death penalty, and it wasn't until 2011 that it was dropped. While in prison, he's picked up some college degrees, provided segments to NPR, sued for a prisoner's right to get paid from publication of books he wrote, given commencement speeches through pre-recorded videos, and he's had work published all around the world. He'll be 71 on April 24, 2025, and he's still in prison for what many places would consider defense of self or others. He's still in prison when witnesses have recanted their testimonies. He's still in prison despite state courts admitting that he was only convicted due to a, quote, unfair application of federal law. He's still in prison despite the court ruling that instructions to the jury from the judge were intentionally confusing. He's still in prison despite district courts stating he was the victim of a purposeful racial bias in jury selection. He's still in prison despite the judge who presided over review of the trial being reprimanded for their bias. Just free Mumia, people.
Okay. I am using the NoopooH Tarot deck for the first reading, and I will use the second deck for the second reading as far as questions is concerned. So for the first question, did the negative forces through his brother William Cook set up Wesley Cook to get the death penalty in prison? Mm. Okay, the first card that popped up in the upright is interracial marriage card. In known signs, this is not allowed for scientific and genetic reasons, plus the nature of the races. When humans do this, they take away the image and likeness of their ancestors on both sides, creating hybrids by way of miscegenation. The negative sexual forces of Leviathan has caused this to happen amongst humans. Let me get clarification on the interracial marriage card. Wow. Oh, wow. Okay. So the card that popped up in the reverse is the female NoopooH marriage card. I couldn't quite see it, but I saw the lady that was wrapped around his shoulder, and therefore she looked like she could have been of a mixed race. But just from looking at the video and seeing her, she wasn't fully African, she wasn't fully black. She was a fair-skinned lady, and therefore, that's just showing that he wasn't really dealing with a black woman per se. Yeah. Let me get a deeper reading pertaining to it being in the reverse. Okay, I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm coming. Okay. Okay, in the reverse, it means there are no men to marry, or that the female isn't marriageable or interested in marriage at that time. Yeah, okay, there you go. So it was never mentioned whether he was married or not to that woman that was wrapped around his neck. Um, but it showed that he wasn't married. He wasn't married, and he was he wasn't married. And the lady that he was with, she was like a fair skinned mixed mixed black race, biracial, so be it. Okay. Okay, well, the second card that popped up is the Universe Intestines card in the upright. Water powers, absorption powers, able to decompose big issues mentally, physically, and spirituality issues into manageable situations. Provides powers of time, change, matter, and continuity, uninterrupted movement and change. In reverse is obstruction of movement. Okay, so just this card popped up in my second reading. I'm sorry, in the first reading I did a day or two ago. So yeah, it's just coming up. Movement, unable to move. You know, it interrupted his movement because he was a driver and he called himself stopping to help his brother. He ended up getting in an altercation with the police. And he ended up getting in a gunfight. Both officers end up getting shot, which I said in my first reading that due to Mumia shooting a cop, to me it comes out as being self-defense, which is what I said in the first reading. The third card that popped up in the reverse is the Sun God Uranus card. It's punishment for people doing wrong. Imperfection and scapegoat powers. So that right there just showed that the brother scapegoated his own brother. He refused to testify. He refused to testify, and it came out his mouth saying that he didn't have anything to do with it. Didn't have nothing to do with it. And my second question is gonna wrap it up, but I'm gonna the fourth card that popped up in the reverse, commandment law number 2. So being that this is in the reverse, do for others what you will want done for self, the same way each time their conditions are the same. This law teaches us not to be selfish, but kind and helpful to others in need. Okay, let me get a further reading on that. Hmm. Okay, hold up. Hmm. Let's see, this is because it's hmm. Hmm. So being that this speaking of, it teaches us not to be selfish. This is in the reverse. So the brother did show his selfishness. Um, he showed his selfishness and he refused to help his brother. Okay. So that right there exposes the brother for using his brother as a scapegoat when he came there to help him. So therefore, that right there just showed that he scapegoated his brother because he was the one that was being pulled over. So he was one of them selfish individuals that only was thinking about himself at that time. So he let his brother take the fall. Therefore, that would free him from getting locked up or killed for that matter. Like it stated, Philadelphia was going through hard times of police brutality and racial tensions, which is why those movements started in the first place. The Black Panther Party, as well as Move 9. But he was placed on the COINTELPRO list once he became the Minister of Information with the Black Panther Party. He was placed on the COINTELPRO list. Then when he joined the 9 movement is what ended his life. So the second question, did the negative forces possess the brother to scapegoat Wesley Cook? Wow. Okay, the first card, the brain of the universe card. Personal creator and God of the person, controlled by reasoning and thinking, motion, intelligence, judgment, behavior, morals, memory, reading, knowledge, positive brain matter. Okay, so therefore you have right there, the judgment of at the time for what Mumia called herself trying to do to help his brother. And therefore, he was also controlled by reasoning and in his thinking as far as what he was doing that led up to that judgment, which didn't turn out so well for him. Okay, the second card in reverse is the QueeRaOpoo card in reverse. Is ego and identity issues, insecure, need validation, suspicious, impulsive, verbal weapon when angry, feels lonely. Yeah. He uses verbal weaponry against the officer. He was already considered the minister of information. So there's no doubt in mind that that officer didn't know who he was. He knew. You going around from state to state exposing police brutality, and you think that they don't know what he doing in Philadelphia? They already knew he was part of the Black Panther Party. That's how he got put on the COINTELPRO list. So that cop knew who he was. And the shot and that shooting led up to Mumia Abu Jamal, aka Wesley Cook. He needed validation as to why the cop was pulling his brother over, which led into a gunfight. And Caucasians in general, with that power, stricken mentality, where they feel like they are in control of every situation. Yeah. Of course, they don't like to be challenged, no way, shape, form, or fashion. Okay, the third card they come out in the reverse is the TarBoOonooAanet card. So being that this came out in the reverse, is just showing that this is not a card that solved problems. So what I would do is I would get confirmation. Need confirmation on a NoopooH card in reverse. Okay. The universe bone marrow card is what popped up in the upright. Supports life, fights off illness and infections, strength generator, heals and seals wounds. Okay, so Mumia Abdul-Jabbar, he did support life. That was his agenda to to save the life of other Black people from police brutality and racial tensions in the city of Philadelphia and around the world. And what he was doing was he was trying to fight off that illness, which led up to his demise. Okay. So the last card that popped up in the reverse is the King NoopooH card, Reharati card. Okay. So in reverse, followers fall to sex forces, removed from stable lands, excommunicated, immigration laws in place, fighting among children, skin disease, melanin, recessive, moon cycle madness. So that's just the card that popped up in my first reading, but it was in the upright. This is in the reverse. So yeah, followers fall to sex forces. So therefore, Leviathan was involved. Leviathan was involved in what happened to Wesley Cook, aka Mumia Abdul-Jamal, and this includes my reading. Stay tuned for more. But in the meantime, please comment, share, subscribe, and like the video. And I will be back. True peace, kins and friends.